And to that piece of lieutenant that's always on his podcast, bashing us, fuck him.
Attention to roll call.
Yeah, that's right. Good morning, everybody. It's 8:05 live Eastern time, and of course, for me, it's 5:05 Pacific Coast, coast to coast. Good morning, still bright and early. Grab your coffee, grab your donuts. Of course, we've got a great interview going for you. Detective, retired, Mike Smith, good friend, long life friend of mine. Worked in the 120 precinct together in the early days. John, myself, and Mike. Mike, no doubt about it, was a real cop. So, Mike, thank you for coming on with us today. Mike's retired for about 4 days, maybe a week. I think his uniform's still at the precinct. So
it's still there, bro. It's still hanging up.
takes real guts to come on. Mike, let's start into it. Just tell us about your childhood, where you grew up, why you became a cop, and ultimately the NYPD.
I grew up down in North Shore, Staten Island, West Brighton. Moved to the Mid Island like around 11. You know, right around, I would say 9/11. Like you hear all the time, but around 9/11 is when I really said, listen, I want to be NYPD. Came on in the beginning of 2005, linked up with you in the 120, which was an awesome place to begin. And I had a great career in the 120. Like a lot of people think, you're coming on a podcast to like kind of just bash the job, but in reality, like this, we all love this job. Like this is why we're here talking about it. I don't think there was a better job ever. I don't think any other department could touch this department, especially back in the day when we were allowed to be real cops. And the 120, man, that was just a special place. That's like kind of what made me into everything I was in my career. We had good guys around there, good people. You were able to learn. One of the things I tell people to this day is when I came out as a rookie, I was able to jump in a sector call with like, I don't know if you remember Angel Ortiz, lunatic, but time on the job, man. He wanted it his way and you had to do it his way or you weren't getting the call with him. Joe Lavagnera, another guy who senior guy, took the time to show you how to do the job. Yourself, you took the time, you showed us how to do the job the right way, be squared away. You don't have that anymore. And that's a big miss for us right now in the NYPD. Nobody with time on, and the guys that do have time on really don't want to give you the time of day to help you out. But yeah, man, 120 was an awesome spot to learn. I feel like that molded me. I did SNU there for a long time. Got to work with Sergeant Bobby Wachewski. I don't know if you remember him.
Of course.
Tell everybody.
Mike, rest in peace to Angel Ortiz, by the way. I never forget, I got in the car with Angel
really?
Ortiz, and it was like death proof. I got in the car. I said, don't touch the radio. Don't touch anything. Just listen to what I tell you. I'm like,
okay. Yeah. That's 100% right out of his mouth. Don't touch this. Don't touch that. But another good dude, man. Like you had to kind of earn his respect. Once you earned his respect, the guy would give a shirt off his back. Bobby Wachewski, though, man. I tell everybody, if it wasn't for that guy, I would have never really been anything. I wouldn't have known anything that I know up until this day of police work. That guy molded his guys into real cops, not to be afraid, to work in good faith, to articulate the right way, how to work the street, how to become a part of the street. I would have did SNU till my last day on the job if I could have with that dude. I would have ran through a fire for him. And you don't have those types of bosses no more, man. Very, very few, But yeah, I mean, 120 was a great place. I tell everybody that. A lot of people think you come out to Staten Island and it's going to be, weak and slow, but not that place, bro. And especially not when the 121 was up, because that was the Wild West back in the day. I don't even remember how many miles we covered, but it was a lot.
It was a lot. It was like 20 something square miles.
Yeah. I mean, you went from Bay Street to Holland Avenue, and nobody even knows. We were talking about it before. Nobody knows about Holland Avenue. That's like the hidden projects. No one knows about that.
Oh, yeah. So, Mike, you grew up on Staten Island. What was that like for you? A lot of guys come on the job. They come from Long Island. They come from upstate, or they come from places that, they go home at the end of the night.
Yeah.
But you grew up on the island. You work on the island. You go home on the island. How was that for you?
Listen, it wasn't bad. I think a lot of people assume like you're going to run into people you arrest or interact with. That happened. That was very limited. The only thing you wouldn't catch me doing is walking through the Staten Island Mall, because that's the whole island's going to be walking over there through that mall. But other than that, I never had an issue. To me, it was easy. I think the problem is, and I always say it's a problem, because you kind of get stuck in the comfort of working in the borough you live in and not have to traveling to work. But I'll tell you this, when you move out of your borough and you work in another borough, you really get another perspective and a positive outlook on the job, because you appreciate other places so much more working there. I got sent to Lower Manhattan during COVID. Wasn't happy about it at first. Turned out to be the best thing in my career.
Yeah, Mike, I agree. You got to expand your horizons. And I would tell guys also, don't just work in Staten Island because of the convenience. There's 4 other boroughs. Go expand yourself. And also you build a network by going to different boroughs also. But I will say this, shout out to the 120 precinct. Anyone there, if you're active or retired from the 120 precinct, it's a rocking command. I was told throughout my whole career, you worked at Staten Island slow. I said, I'll tell you right now, I'll put the 120 precinct to rival anywhere in the South Bronx. And I worked in the South Bronx. And to this day, we spoke about it. 55 Holland Avenue was the scariest building to be in Staten Island, right?
100%. 100%. I think back when I first came out, I'm pretty sure a woman was thrown over the balcony of the top floor of that building. And that was 17 up, maybe 20 up, 20 stories up. That was a big building.
That was a rocking building. So, Mike, I love the fact that you're being so positive about your career. A lot of times there's a lot of misinformation when it comes to the podcast, that we're ranting and we're a bunch of, just unhappy cops and we're disgruntled. That's actually the furthest thing from the truth. We love our careers. That's why we're talking about the state that it's in right now, the administration it's under. So, Mike, you went to the 120 precinct. I know you right away. You were a rocking cop. Tell us what it was like being a rookie, what you wanted to do on the job. I know you were looking for guns right away. What did you want to do? What was your initial impression of being a young cop in the 112 precinct doing intrusive police work?
So originally the goal was always to get that shield. Everybody wanted that detective shield, especially back then. So to get that shield, you had to do your job. You had to work. So I did my time in patrol. I don't know if you remember, I did a little auto larceny stint. Lasted about 30 days, and I wanted nothing to do with that anymore. I came back. So at the time we had Inspector Bruno, another good man. And Bruno said, I'll bring you back, no problem. Do a month of patrol for me, and I'll get you into SNU. I know that's where you want to go. And that was a guy that appreciated work, no matter how much time you had on the job. As long as you showed me you want to do your job, that guy would go to work for you. So I came back. I did patrol day tours for a while. But we had fun, man. Well, we always had fun on patrol over there. And there was one morning where the SNU team was out, and I was covering Jersey Street, Sector Ready. And the SNU sergeant calls me up, and he's like, "Listen, we lost a stolen car. If you find the car, you're on the team tomorrow." So now I'm like, I don't want to answer any jobs. Like I'm literally like I'm focused on, I want to find this car. And 5 minutes later, man, this car's parked in front of 418 Jersey Street. Go figure, right? So real quick, guy goes under, no incident, nothing. Just doesn't even know why he has the car. One of those situations. I called the sergeant up. Next day I started SNU. That to me was the biggest thing, because I got to work with Bobby. He had awesome guys on that team. Richie, Denise, James Pedro. There were some heavy hitters on that team. Then we got flaked with that kid, Ed Ranieri, somehow. I don't know how he wound up there, but, we'll get into that later. But heavy hitters, bro, on Bobby's team. And you learned a lot. So we would do, our tours were different every day. The hours would change. Your days off would flip-flop sometimes, but it was all worth it, because at the end of the day, you're getting real heavy stuff off the street. It wasn't marijuana collars with this guy. It was crack. It was heroin. It was guns. We would actually kind of go up against narcotics, because narcotics used to get mad at us at the time that why is this precinct level narco street team kind of like out doing what we're supposed to do in these neighborhoods. But all to do with Bobby Wachewski, man. That guy was just a mastermind. He knew the job in and out. You'll never see anybody like that again. And then he wound up going 3/4, say maybe 2 years into it. And that's kind of when like the shift changed a little bit for me, because I don't know if you remember when you're working in the Yo and you're working with somebody you respect, that dude's got a lot of haters, man, because there were some guys that hated the work he was doing because he was a worker. He didn't play pretend. He'd go out there and he'd get the job done. So when he went 3/4 and we had a covering boss, it was like they wanted to kill us. Like they wanted us to just put him in the bag, put him out on patrol, get rid of these guys. You know, they're no good. And that's kind of what happened for a little bit until they kind of broke up this new team, sent half of us to crime. One went to the night team, one went to the day team. And I was lucky enough, I wound up with Sergeant Alfano on the day team, and guys like Chris Carula and Jimmy Casale and those guys. Another great group of guys I got to work with. And from there, we took in Greg Gordon from the 7-0 precinct. Took him right to the crime team. I worked with him because he was my high school buddy. We were high school together, so we worked together in street crime. And we wound up getting into shooting.
Wait, Greg was sorry to cut you off, but Greg, he was the West Indian Day, right?
Yeah, man, he was the West Indian Day guy. So his
tell that story before you go to shooting. Tell the story.
Well,
that's a great story.
You got to remember, I was in Staten Island. He's in Brooklyn at the time, and I just remember coming home, putting the news on, and like just staring at the TV, like, what is this guy doing? And I'm watching him dance, like having a great time, man. And he wound up getting his hit was an administrative transfer to Staten Island. That was, at the end of the day, that's all it was. But the crazy part about that is, and I think you guys will agree, if he did that today, he's getting promoted. Like it's a different world.
He's gonna be in community affairs,
right?
Yeah, but he's the first grade on community affairs today,
which is wild because like it kind of, even though the punishment wasn't terrible, but it took it out of where he wanted to work, inconvenienced him for a little bit, and you know today you're looking at that and you're like, this is such a joke because this is what they want now, like this is what they're promoting. So it's just wild.
I don't think he did anything wrong at the time either. The girl came.
I don't think so either.
And he danced with her, and he went back and he did his job. That was it.
And if you work those details, you know that's notorious for going down the whole route. So, you know, he made a good day out of it. He got into it.
Mike, it looks like one of your buddies made for the squad says, "Mike, your iCard popped. Come in." Vince Wu.
Vince Wu's a good dude, man. Vince Wu's a good dude.
I told you it's going to be fun. Rich Rod, shout out to you. Coffee and Donuts. Good morning. Says good morning, John, Eric, and Detective Smith and everyone. So people giving you shout out, Mike. I'm sure you're well loved. I mean, you were a hell of a cop. So you're in the 120 precinct. You're doing SNU. You go to crime. I remember, as you said, Inspector Bruno, good man. He actually backed up the cops, got himself 3/4 by trying to get into a door when there was a huge brawl that stemmed from the fireworks. Were you there that day? There was a huge brawl with.
Nancy gave me 8 felony collars that night, bro.
Tell us the story about that. So I just want to preface it, Mike, for our friends, our active retired members, civilians. We got people all over the country that watch this. So sure enough, in Staten Island, there was a huge brawl that actually where you requested assistance from the entire borough. It was actually that stemmed from fireworks, right? It was I think it was July 4th. Mike, tell us that story. Amazing story.
I think I forget the street it was on, but it was like it might have been down like off of Bay Street somewhere, in like one of those nice hidden cul-de-sacs down there. But it was I remember it being a beautiful house, and I remember going there a few times during the night. They were just lighting off fireworks. At the time, we had some crazy initiative where remember they were cracking down on everybody doing fireworks. So we went there a few times during the night, and I remember Nancy saying, if I got to come back one more time, we're going to shut this down. And if you know Nancy Sirigliano, if she's telling you something's going to go down, it's going to go down. So just bear with it. It's happening.
Yeah. We gave her a shout out a couple times. Shout out to Nancy.
She's another rarity. You'll never get another woman like her again. And that's why, when you guys talk about women on the job, she belonged on this job. No doubt about it. She gave you the smacks you needed. She taught you a lot of stuff you needed to know, and she was just very good to work for. But I just remember the last call going there, last radio run of the night, and then just all shit hitting the fan. I remember there was this the right way to say it. He was like mentally ill kid in the corner who just picked up the sofa and tossed it at the cops at the front door. Like he went wild when the cops came in his house. And then they had to subdue him. And once they subdued him, the rest of the family went crazy. And it was just a shit show. I think we took 20 people out of that house under that night. And she divvied it up between a few guys. I wound up getting 8. A few other guys got a few. They slammed the door, I think, on Inspector Bruno's face. And maybe his arm got stuck in the door. That was his 3/4 out. But that was just a wild night, man. That was like one of the first 4th of Julys I had on the job, too. That had to be like 06, I would say, 2006.
I don't remember. Somebody's saying it was on Finmore Street.
Could be.
That sounds familiar, the film. I just remember that I wasn't there that day, but I remember it ended up being a 10-13 where the entire borough was summoned to go there.
Yeah, it was all over the papers the next day too. That whole thing. That was the debacle. So Mike, sorry I cut you off, dude. So what happens with the shooting? You said he got into a shooting when Greg Gordon comes to the precinct. You guys are working together and you guys get in a shooting. So what happened there?
So right now they're building the 121. It's not open yet officially. So we're still kind of 120 crime guys. Where snowy night, nothing happening. Half the team's in with like a crack holler. We're still out roving around. So I get a call from the squad. And the squad's like, look, there's a CI keeps calling us. He's with somebody with a firearm. Kid wants to do a home invasion. You interested in getting a gun collar? And I'm like, all right, just give me his number. So I start interacting with the CI. I find out who his handler is. The handler's nowhere to be found. Not answering the phone. The FIO's nowhere to be found. So now I'm stuck dealing with the CI. CI's giving me information. It's kind of like Rocky all over, kind of going to spots, not seeing nothing. So we're like, all right, maybe this is nonsense. So he winds up getting in touch with the FIO. FIO calls me and he's like, stop talking to him. I'll deal with him. Just go where I tell you to go. I'm like, all right. So he tells us where to go, which is like, I think the original spot he said was Castleton and Treadwell, something like that. So we're driving. Now, I know the description of the CI and the perp because when I previously spoke to him. So we're like not even near the area. He said we're like on Sharp and Treadwell, maybe around the corner. And they're right there. So he's not even where like the communication kind of got broken up. Luckily enough, we saw the guys. We roll up on them. Kid pulls the gun out right away. I remember seeing the actual round, like leaving the gun. Now, I don't know if his gun was messed up or if he racked it like the movies and the round just slid out, but he pulls it out. I see that happen and he flies. So now I take my gun out. It's snowing out. I'm chasing him down the street. I fire a shot. He screams, runs into the street, and Gordon just hits him. Like he runs right into Gordon. So now he's hitting the street. He goes down. Before that happened, though, I did get housing involved just in case things got a little crazy. So luckily enough, we had a lot of uniformed personnel around us that night. So everything was done the proper way. And that was really it. Shooting was good. The kid winds up pleading guilty to 20 to life, some crazy charge, only to wait until the new regime comes in to sue us in court for $800,000 and win. That's mind blowing, right? Because
he wins or he settles, or they settle with him.
Well, they settled for $800,000, and
they give him money. They're like, okay, we're not going to fight this.
Yeah, they were trying to fight it. I'll give them a little bit of respect for that. I think what they were nervous was at the time Gordon left the job because he wasn't taking he wasn't getting vaccinated. So Greg leaves and goes to Florida. He gets a job. His job now is kind of private. It's not like he's not protected. So they didn't want this coming out in the media again. All the shit like they put up his social media, all the things we would do. Like they brought that all up. So they're like, look, is it worth us settling? Or do you really want to go through the battle and, God forbid, screw up a job you have now when the city kind of screwed up the job you already had? So we were like, that's kind of the right move in that, you know what I mean, in that moment. Like, why should he jeopardize his job now when the city already screwed him in his police job. So we settled. But the crazy part is like you take a 20-year life, like you agree to those terms. You should not even be allowed to open a lawsuit down the road after that. Like it should be over. Like whether we settle or not, like it should be over. There should be no way you're allowed to sue anybody for money when you pled guilty and you already said like, yeah, I'm dead to rights. This is what happened. There should be no reason you're getting that kind of money. You know what I mean? But we see that over and over in New York City. That's just
it's a broken system. So people know you're going to sue, the city's going to settle, and that's what's going to happen. And they knew it. They took advantage of it, and I think everybody that gets arrested takes advantage of it. You remember the old courthouse in Staten Island? You'd walk out of court, you had to walk through or something, and there'd be lawyers right there waiting to grab up whoever just got arrested. They know cases, and they're all making money, dude. They're all
67 Targee Street back in the day.
Yeah. I used to call them ambulance chasers. Those guys were just waiting. You say, "Oh, there they are!" Right? There was just like John. You're 100% right. It was almost like a walkout, right? When you walk, when you do a walk every time, like those guys.
Well, the lawyers are right there. Sometimes they would think you're a perp, right? Like, yo, what happened? Like, get away.
Mike, it's a hell of a story. Listen, it's fascinating. Listen, I'm not. I don't say it just to say it. Mike was a real cop from day one. It was in your blood. So awesome job. You guys are running, gunning. I know the area very well. Me and Valachi, my partner, we got a gun in the same spot right there. There's always shootings in those spots right there, stemming from the West Brighton houses.
Yep.
So sure enough, you get honored. You get a combat cross.
We get honored, right?
That gets rescinded. Tell us that story, please.
So, you got to write that up. There's a way you got to write things up, and it's got to get approved. So we had a few guys, well-respected lieutenants on the job, write that up for us. Got approved for a combat cross. So at the time now, Kelly is leaving, Bloomberg's leaving, de Blasio's coming in, Bratton's coming in. So my partner, I love him to death, man. He puts up, he's a military guy, Greg. He's done his time, man. He's been deployed all over the place. So, he writes something on Facebook. Mayor's wife should not have police opinions. She's a former crackhead. Is he lying? Absolutely not. He's telling the truth. And as somebody that served the country should be allowed to say whatever he wants, he's the reason why we're allowed to say whatever we want. So that just led to like a slew of other things, like other comments, other stories being told under that post. And one of them was an article of Trump being turned down by Bratton. He wanted to do roll call in the first precinct, I think. His first go at promoting himself for president. And the article was like, he's not allowed to step foot in the precinct. So a fucking comment under that was, well, Bratton could take the medals and shove them up his, and then dude, before you know it, it was like, they just had blood out for all of us. So Greg winds up, because it's his social media, IAB hits him. They don't know what to do with him because he didn't do anything wrong. He didn't do anything criminal. He didn't do anything on the job that was wrong, just a post. So they give him some crazy like ultimatum. Well, log into your Facebook and we need 18 months of you to scroll or you're suspended. So Greg's like, all right, logs into his Facebook and they scroll 18 months worth of stuff. They can't find nothing. They can't prove who's saying what. So they hurt feelings now, and they send him to the 3-2 squad. That's where he got his punishment. If you talk to Greg to this day, that's the best squad he ever worked in his career. Other than the travel to get there, loved it. Loved the guys he worked with. The bosses there respected you. He just loved it. Couldn't say enough good about the 3-2 squad. But at the end of the day, after all that, they hit him with a CD, like posting on job time. After all that, posting on job time is the end result. And it might have been like one post they found was during his tour of work. So he gets hit with that. It's in the 3-2 squad. Medal day comes and goes. Our combat cross, no good. We ain't getting it. O'Neill comes into play. So we said, we'll put in for it again. We put in for it again, the same exact wording. Nothing changed. We get an accommodation. That was our big medal. So, if you guys see me, I wear that combat horse, you know, when I'm in uniform all the time. And I say it, and I'm the type of person on the job that I say what I say. It is what it is. If you want it off me, take it off me, because you weren't in the situation that we were in at that time. You know what I mean? I'm not wearing it for pretend. Like, we were in a situation, it was originally approved, should have never been not approved. I'll wear that always, and I'll hang that up on my shield when I'm retired and moving to South Carolina. That'll be in my display, because to me, we earned that on that night.
100%, dude. So, like, you know, we often talk about that cops, whether you're active or even in retirement, you're told get in the corner and shut up. Nobody wants to hear from you.
Yeah.
The reason I'm bringing that up, Greg's Facebook account, if I remember correctly, didn't even say that he was a cop.
No.
It had nothing to do that he was the NYPD. It was his own personal account. He didn't identify as a police officer. He didn't do anything. And that just proves that cops are not entitled to First Amendment activities.
No. And they were out for blood for him. They were so mad they couldn't prove that he did anything like corrupt or illegal, that they had to send him to the furthest place. Like, that was the smack. And here's your CD for posting 2 posts while you're at work. Like, come on, bro. You're gonna give somebody a CD for posting at work, you might as well call the whole job in and give the whole job a CD, because everybody's posting something. You know what I mean? But like I said about before, when you kind of leave the borough you're working, it's a blessing in disguise, man, because it's always nice to go to work where you're appreciated. And sometimes that makes up for being so close to home. Like, when I got sent to, so after the shooting happens, you know, me and Greg go our separate ways. Greg goes to the 122 squad. I go to the grand larceny squad. I wanted to go back to street crime so bad, dude. Grand larceny squad, to me, nothing against anybody there, was just boring. Just extremely boring work. If you're used to running around, now you got to get used to sitting at a desk chasing numbers, following where like the fraud is and stuff. I had to do that for a while. Luckily enough, I had a guy there I worked for. His name was Mike Walsh. Well, crazy Irish dude, but one of the best lieutenants I got to work for on the job. Another guy, he let you be a detective. He used to say this thing that you guys will appreciate. Hogs used to say pigs will eat, hogs will get slaughtered when it comes to overtime, right? And I always think, what is he thinking now when he sees all these guys getting slaughtered right now with this overtime scandal? Because he was 100% right. That's exactly what happened at the end of the day. But Mike was a great dude, man. He let you do your thing. He was the type of guy, like, if you kind of disagree with him, you could kind of get in your yelling match, and 5 minutes later, it was normal. No grudges held, nothing. Solid guy. He leaves. Now we get a dude there. He's still there now. Well, he's still in the same building now. I don't know if you remember him, Eric. Chris Bannon. I'm not a fan.
No, I just remember. No, I know. I just remember. Like, yeah.
So, like, you got to remember.
He's bringing up all these names.
Yeah.
Long time
So,
for
like,
me.
you got to remember, like, you got to kind of treat. I'm not saying treat where you are as a joke. You know, I'm not saying that at all. But you got to understand where you work and how to kind of like run that squad. You don't come into a grand larceny squad and try to run it like the 120 squad, because it's completely different. The 120 squad is a revolving door nonstop. Those guys are busy 24/7, 365. You know, God bless them. Grand larceny squad, you got a lot of downtime. The work there is different. You're not really revolving door. It's like slow paced investigations, right? They take time. They take time to build leads, because you're chasing a lot of different, you know, sometimes you're not going to get anything on them. A lot of times we used to laugh, like, you get a lot of C4s and fraud cases and grand larcenies, because
Mike, can you tell our people what a C4 is? We got a lot of active retirement. We got people all over the country. We have regular civilians. If you can tell them what it is.
When you're closing a case C4, it's just all leads have been exhausted. There's really no other direction to go at the time. So you get a lot of that there, because you know how it is. You're dealing with numbers, emails, fake WhatsApps. It's just a lot of time. It's a lot of time that goes into investigations that you really don't need. But this dude comes in and treats it like the 120. We bump heads right away. Right now it's about 2019, so COVID's right around the corner. COVID hits, thank God, because it was my way out of there. And he's like, I got to send one guy to the 5th squad. So at the time, like, I'm not thinking I want to like leave to go to Lower Manhattan. I'm thinking like, well, it ain't going to be me because I got X amount of years on. And sure as shit, yeah, we got to pick you because they want somebody with experience. So I was laughing. I'm like, you just want me out of here because you don't want to deal with me constantly bumping heads with you. Just say that and I'll respect it better. But I wind up going. And dude, the first day I walked into that 5th squad, man, I knew that's where I had to stay from day one. Didn't work with a bad person. Till this day, I talk to every one of those guys. The bosses were incredible. I can't say enough about that squad. For such a small squad, man, it was like, and you got to remember, I had Sunday, Mondays RDO for probably the majority of my career, from SNU to the squad to grand larceny. So going there, I kept them for like maybe a week, and then I had to do the 4-2 chart. I didn't care. It was that good. I didn't care. And that chart is like, if you know anything about the 4-2s, it's stupid. But working out there, it worked. Those guys made it work. So I got nothing but respect for everybody in the 5th squad.
Mike, talk about that. Walk us through. You're running around, you're doing SNU, you're doing anti-crime. I mean, 120 was full special operations team.
Yeah.
How do you get to the squad? How do you get on track? And when do you get promoted to detective?
So at that time, you had to put your time in crime. You had to go through interview after interview. And me and Greg were kind of knocking on the door of the squad even before the shooting, but we never really, we were getting like out hooked, like the hooks were still coming in at that time. They just got a lot worse these days. But we get out hooked and they'd be like, oh, next call you're in. So we get in the shooting and now we're like, oh, this got to be it, right? Like what else could we do that's going to get us in detective squad? So the 121 is being built. The 120 is kind of trying to figure out how they're going to allocate their men and women to this precinct to kind of compensate for the new guys that are going to come in there. So RCO is this guy, John Sprague, at the time. And nice guy, but we weren't his clique. Like we were his workers, but we weren't his Thursday night crew. You know what I mean? Like we weren't those guys. And that's who he catered to. So at this time, Sprague's like, he's trying to sell us like, well, you guys are going to the squad. So I'm just going to send you to the 121 because I'm going to lose you anyway. He's like, you're going to do street crime, the same thing, the same hours. Nothing's going to change. You're just going to be in a different building. So we leave and we're like, this guy just wants us out of here. Let's just go. If he's wrong about we're next up in the squad, whatever. We're in a new spot. We're doing the same thing we've been doing. We're on the other side of the precinct. We'll make it work. So we go there, and that place was just like a disaster from the get-go, the 121. Built terrible, built on a graveyard, always problems in the building. I think they might have sent like the dumbest people in the world to work there. I don't know how that works, like how they filtered who went to the 121, but it was just like a weird place to be. Luckily, we're there maybe 3 months. Greg goes to the 122 squad. I get called to financial crimes, grand larceny division, and we go our separate ways.
So, Mike, I'm taking you back a little bit, bro. You get on the job. What's your ethos, dude? What'd you do? Like, you're trying to get to the squad. What are you doing every day? Like, and then on that, like, what are you doing? How are you attacking the day? And then where are you at? Like, as far as how many years you got on the job while you guys are knocking, when they send you to the 121, how much work have you put in by that time?
Put in a lot of work by the time we got to the squad. You figure 2014 is when we got to the detective squad. We came on in 05. So, what about 11 years maybe it took to get there? 10 and a half. So I felt like it took a while after seeing other guys that were getting in for shorter routes compared to the work we were doing. And look, I'm not saying we were the best, but we worked hard. Like, there's no doubt about it. Like, we loved it. So I'm not saying it was like we didn't love it. We love to do what we do. Like, there was no better place. Yeah, it's just such a weird building, right? Look at it.
Looks like a stapler.
Yeah.
That's what they call it, Fort Stapler.
Yeah.
Weird.
It's so I don't know who designed that, but
Terrible.
Yeah, so I mean, it took a while to get there. The workload we put in before we got there was a lot. I mean, I would say I ended my 20 years with about 750 arrests myself, involved in thousands. You know, they even changed the way you run things in the system, so it became like a pain in the ass to kind of break it down the way we used to. Because I don't know if you guys remember when you would put in for these specialty positions in the squad, you'd have to fill out the career path, those career transfer forms. So there'd always be like a arrest history. You'd get a certain amount of points for that. You get X amount of points for activity. That's all gone. I remember those things. You needed like 15 points to be able to put in for a specific unit. So I remember back in the day, you'd have the sergeant run your stuff. He'd give you an exact breakdown on what you had. You'd put it in your packet, send it in. Now you don't need that. There's no such thing as the career path anymore. I'm pretty sure now you go on the internet, you put your tax number in, and that's it. You plug yourself into something and you wait for a call. So,
What do you think about that, though, dude? I see kids with a year and a half on getting detective shields, 2 years getting detective shields. You put 11 years in, running out every day, every night. What do you think about that?
It's terrible. It's terrible. And if you guys remember, Detective Bureau was where everybody at once wanted to go. No one wants to go there no more. It was the most prestigious thing to be in the NYPD. I mean, for me, that's all I ever wanted was that detective shield. I didn't want any. I didn't care about promotional route or anything like that. I wanted the detective shield. When me and my partner we retired at the same time, so they were starting to get nervous because now they're losing 2 bodies in the 5th squad. It would have brought them down to, I think, 6. You can't run a squad with 6 guys. We were running the 5th squad with 6 guys, 7 guys for close to a year. And it was like, it was impossible to do anything. They refused to give us people. They used to say that 1, nobody was putting in for the squad, and 2, the job was so low on manpower, they had nobody to give us. So we wind up retiring, and I believe they got 2 bodies like 2 days later. 1 from narcotics. I don't know where the other one came from, but I don't think they had much time on. So it is terrible to see people coming in with a year and a half, 2 years on, but at the same time, they can't find anybody. So I feel like that's going to be it now. That's going to be what you see happening.
Mike, you bring up awesome points out here. Just want to give a shout out. Not sure if you know him, but Tom Joyce, he actually was a lieutenant commander. He did cold case. He was in the squad. He had an appearance here live last week recently. Did a great job telling some awesome stories. He says, this is breaking my heart to hear Mike talk about the Bureau. And he puts the Bureau in caps because you're right, Mike. The Bureau was the place to be. And, and hearing your story and knowing your story personally and comparing to my crime guys, just like you, were awesome running around. It took them 10, 11, 12 years grinding in the South Bronx. You're grinding all over the streets of Northern Staten Island, the 120 precinct, getting guns. And the grind that you guys had to go through to get to Detective Bureau is what made it so special.
Right.
We see these kids with a year and a half on the job, 2 years, they're getting in by nepotism. And I understand that, right? It makes sense. They're hurting so bad. They have nobody to get into those squads. But we see these kids getting there by rocket fuel from nepotism. It breaks my heart to see the comparison of your experience. So here you are, you're in the squad. The manpower is just at an all-time low, camaraderie. But talk about that. Talk about the mass exodus, how that affected your ability to be an investigator, what those cases were like, and how did you guys overcome and adapt to it?
Well, I can tell you the 5th squad guys are just, they're a special group, man. Like, we will literally, like, when you're in that 5th squad office, it's like watching your podcast all day long. That's the atmosphere you're in. Everybody there gets along. The conversations are awesome. There's not, and even even when you have a disagreement, it's about 5 minutes long and it's over. It's out the window. But we were to the point where, so I gotta start from the beginning of this. So the 5th squad, when I first get there, we have Chris Fisher as the CO. Guys, aces, gentlemen, still on the job. One of the best. They wind up sending me back to GLD for about 6 months because the Chiefs got into a pissing match over, well, if you're keeping Smith in the 5th, you better send me a body to GLD. So I go back. Fisher winds up getting sent to the 1st precinct as their CO. Fifth Squad gets a girl, Fran De Palma. Now, Eric, you will remember her because she was the cadet in the 120 when we were cops there. Very quiet, never spoke to nobody. I break her chops now. I'm like, you were nasty to everybody back in the day. You didn't say nothing to anybody. But she was Dave Nielsen's cadet back in the day. So now she's the CO of the 5th. She calls me up immediately when she gets there. She's like, do you want to come back? I'm like, now, let's go. Like, bring me back now. Like, I got to get out of here. Within a week, I'm back. I'm working for Franny. One of the best people I ever got to work for in the squad. She knew the squad inside and out. One of the smartest women I ever got to work for. She didn't take no shit. She was respected by all the executives. And when you respect the squad CO, all your detectives getting treated better too overall by the borough you work for. So we never had any issues. It was awesome. She made it a family-oriented workspace, and that's exactly what it was for us. She gets promoted, and I tell her till this day, I hate you for taking the lieutenant's promotion because she left us with the promise from the regime then of retaining her coming back, right? So the plan is take your promotion, we'll bring you right back. It never happens. We lose her. We get this dude, Tang Luo. I don't know if you guys know that name, bro. Again, nice guy outside the job, as the average Joe, but you don't put that guy in charge of a precinct detective squad because it'll turn to ruins real quick, and that's exactly what happened. It got to the point where the 5th Squad was so bad where guys were going sick. We were taking turns. All right, Mike, you're going sick this week. I'll go sick next week. You know what? Next week we'll go sick at the same time. We'll really shake it up, and that's what we were doing. It got so bad that our captains called us. Two great guys. Two great captains we had, and they're like, is it that bad over there? They're like, what is going on? I'm like, this guy needs to go. Like, he is a problem. He doesn't know how to run a squad. He doesn't know how to run an investigation. He doesn't know how to read. Like, listen, you guys know, if you don't have any detective experience at all, and you're the CO of a squad, at least read, right? Because if you're reading our cases, it'll tell you a whole story of what's going on. It'll answer all your questions if you read. You gotta read. Dude didn't want to do nothing. Just wanted to pass the buck, sit there in the chair, work in Chinatown like it was cool. And again, nice guy outside the job, but no business being a detective squad because he ruined it for us. And kind of at the end of the day, when me and my partner were actually debating on hanging out maybe one more year, we were like, dude, we're done. It's over. And we put our papers in and we were done. They got a guy now who replaced him because he wound up retiring shortly after. We don't know why. He just might be part of maybe a scandal coming up from what I'm hearing, but
Nothing to do with bars and restaurants, right?
It might have been due like the pay for promotion. Dude. Yeah. He was definitely promoted like less than a year when he retired, which is kind of odd to me, right?
Not a surprise in this administration, huh?
We'll see what happens. But they got a good guy up there now, so I hope those guys are in good hands. They should have a nice change back to normal. But like I said, he's the only guy, like when you talk about the 5th Squad, everybody will tell you the same thing. That's the only negative anyone ever had with the 5th Squad. Other than that place, man, it's sad because the job is kind of chasing us out, and I would have loved to have stayed there a little bit more if I could have. And listen, my time is up 1,000%. I'm not regretting my decision at all, but it would have been nice to be like it was back in the day to say, we could do another 1-2 years if we wanted to and kind of enjoy but that's gone, man. It's gone.
That's what the older generation doesn't understand. I'm like, oh, you got to retire when you wanted to. Oh, that's good. Oh, you got to run to your numbers that you wanted to get to. You got to do all that because it was still a good place to go. Shout out to Al Morales. Steve Napolitano says Al Morales has 3 good men on his panel. Another guy that's work is undeserved, is underappreciated.
Great guy.
You're not kidding.
For 20 years. Shout out to Al. And so can you just tell us what was your caseload like? What was your caseload like in the 5th Squad?
I did the Bram there with my partner, so we would do all the burgs and robberies, and there was a lot. I know a lot of guys will, they think it's like nothing happened in the fifth. You have everything happen in the fifth. Everything, dude. There was times there when De Palma was our CEO, we had like 6-7 homicides there in the year. And, that's big news for Lower Manhattan.
Yep.
100%, closing rate on those homicides. Unfortunately, you guys saw me in the paper. I had the Danny Penny thing with one of my guys at work. That was another crazy thing that we had to deal with, but you get everything. Burgs and robberies are probably the highest. Grand larcenies, a lot of grand larcenies out in the fifth. The problem in the fifth is there's something called SDR Park. And in SDR Park, they don't put any cameras there for some type of public privacy law. So that's where everybody goes to do the big crimes. And, I laugh because they'll pull those cases at ComStat and they'll want to know, well, why don't we do that? I'm like, we don't have cameras there. Like, we can't. There might be one pole camera down the block, but like, if we're not seeing what's going on, how do we know where to take this? It's, it's tough, but there's a lot of cases that go on there. The load is definitely high, and they don't have a lot of guys that work there.
And then Mike, the fifth, I think it's the oldest building in NYPD's. I think it's built in 1848. It's basically a townhouse in the middle of Chinatown that's operating as a precinct. What's it like working under those conditions? You guys have zero parking. You're parking in the middle of Canal Street.
Parking in the middle of the street, sometimes if you're lucky. So my tours that I did for the brand were usually like, it started out 5-6 a.m. And then we got and the reason why that worked for me was because a lot of times the night watch guys would catch stuff like 4 a.m. I would come in, kind of pick that up from them relatively early so that we could get a jump on things. I used to like to have all this stuff done by like 10, 11 o'clock in the morning so we could get a jump on the day tour stuff. In the fifth squad, everything happened on the midnight and in the day tour. It was weird. You didn't get a lot of heavies on the 4-bys in that command. It was weird how it worked out. But we got a new chief out there, another DEI hire, and he decided that, well, my detective shouldn't work earlier than 8 o'clock in the morning. So the early tour stopped. You had to come in at 8 o'clock. If you came in at 7, you had to work for free. They wouldn't even want to give you time anymore. It was a huge, huge problem. And what happens is with that, a lot of guys wind up leaving Manhattan South. And if you guys know anything about Manhattan South, back in the day, nobody wanted to leave Manhattan South. Now there's a list of people trying to get out of there because they don't want to work for this guy. And he didn't promote anybody. No one got promoted. That was another big thing. We lost 2 chiefs that did a very good job promoting their workers. And the timing was off with us. Luckily, my partner got it, well deserved. My partner got 2nd grade. Shortly after that, the new regime took over, and here we go. Look at that shot. You can see the disgust on all of our faces.
Yeah, that must have been a tough day, right? Because I'm going to assume, and we never spoke about it, but you thought that this was just just a miscarriage of justice. But what it proves, I just want you to, what it proves is that real police don't allow politics to infect their job. And you do the job according to the law, according to the district attorney's office, that he was going to be prosecuted, and you did your job. You put aside your emotions, you put aside your personal feelings, and you did your job. And that's what we've been talking about. John says it numerous times, right? John says it. John left the job and retired because of his religious beliefs. He stood behind his religious beliefs. But even John says it. John says that if he was ordered to make an arrest for someone trespassing because they're in a restaurant and they're unvaccinated and they're told they had to leave, he would have did his job, because we don't allow politics to affect us. So that's a great thing. Walk us through the Daniel Penny case.
So the Penny case.
I just want to say before you go into that, I have a lot of respect, because I was shocked myself. After working the 112 precinct, I got promoted to sergeant. I immediately went to PSA 4, which was housing in Lower East Side, and I was the crime sergeant. And I got the crime sergeant within the first couple of months. And I'll never forget, I went to the rooftop of the projects right across from One Police Plaza. And the
Smith
Smith
houses.
houses, right? I'm on the rooftop in the Smith house. I'm like, how bad could these be? I'm across from One Police Plaza. Let me tell you
Hey.
something. They were rocking. We got a lot of guns. So walk us through the Daniel Penny case. You know, Mike, I love your career.
So Penny was that wasn't my investigation. One of my guys had that investigation. But it was a team effort. We did a ton of interviews. I can tell you every interview that was done was the same. Pro Daniel Penny. There was never anybody that was scared of him or thought he did anything outrageous. I'm pretty sure Danny was actually like cleared on the detective side of things after everything, you know, and then we were told like, hey, this is what has to be done. And if you're familiar with like procedure of squads, like if they want you to do something, like you said, all right, it's my job. You're telling me to do it. We'll get it done. But the whole walkout thing to me was bullshit, because if you wanted Danny in on a collar, then have your DA squad bring him into the DA's office and do everything there. Like, we didn't need that whole spectacle outside of the precinct. We didn't need the street shut down for 5 hours. You know what I mean? Like, it was overkill for that. You know, that could have been done the way it should have been done. Have the guy turn himself into the DA squad, which he would have. Danny wasn't running. He wasn't running. He was willingly coming back and forth. He willingly came that day. We had him wait down the block in his car because we didn't want to bring him in too early. Like, we wanted him to kind of like, you know, digest, sit out there, you know, take some time. You know, and it was like a circus to me. All that to just watch the guy walk out of the precinct in handcuffs. Like, what are we doing? You could have handled that in the DA squad much easier, privacy, with the same result in the end, you know?
Mike, you guys took a lot of heat about the interviews. I was actually defending you guys online. Can you just tell everybody the importance of doing a thorough investigation in a situation like that? Like, the reason, like, obviously, you know, when you look at cases on its front and you're like, oh, you may have an opinion already, but you may have an opinion on it, but your opinion might also be wrong. So you have to thoroughly investigate that case. I watched the interview. I thought it was very fair, what the detectives did. I thought they actually did an excellent job. I thought they did their job. But could you just walk the audience through why you need to, in a situation like that, whether you agree or don't agree with the arrest, really doesn't matter. You're there to do a thorough investigation, and what the purpose of that interview was and why it was important to really drill down on those details.
Yeah, I mean, you have to leave no stone unturned, no matter which way you think about it. You got to leave your emotions out of it. In fact, the main investigator that you were watching was a Marine as well. So he did an outstanding job of keeping himself to where he should have kept himself in a fair investigation. Didn't show any bias. In fact, at times, I think he was even leaning on him, you know, hard. But you know, you have to, something like that where somebody's self-defense or standing up for someone, you literally have to go A through Z. You got to make sure everything's accounted for. You have to make sure every witness is spoken to. You have to make sure everything's documented. It's a media case too. It's going to be all over the news. If you're missing something, the public's going to know about it. My guys did such a good job with that. They left no stone unturned. The amount of people they were talking to was nonstop. The amount of times they brought in Danny on an interview was crazy. I mean, the kid kept coming in, which again, if you keep coming in to the precinct willingly talking about what just happened, that's good faith too, man. You're showing us like this guy's got nothing to hide. He's here to help us get to the bottom of what happened. I believe there was even times where guys had to kind of reach out to South Carolina. I think one of the train riders may have lived out in South Carolina. So they had to kind of try to get in contact with that specific person too and bring them back into the mix. So anything like this, media worthy, Marine, somebody passes away because he's, you know, holding him down from not acting like an animal in the subway, you have to go in it 1,000%. Can't leave your emotions that, you know, involved in it, leave your emotions at the door. And I did see a lot of people you're right. Like we're saying, like, oh, look at these two guys walk. They should be ashamed of themselves. And I'm like, one of them specifically is a lieutenant in the 122, which really got me twisted because he should know better. Like, you're a squad lieutenant. Like, you're calling us out for walking this guy out. We didn't ask to walk him out. This is what this job told us to do. So, like, who are you to run your mouth about us? You know what I mean? Like, that kind of
thing. So he wouldn't have did it if he was ordered.
Yeah, like to me, that's a joke.
John, I bet he didn't take the vaccine too.
No, that was I think I know who he's talking. I can't think of his name. He's got a lot to say on about us too. And Francis, is that who it is?
Yep.
Yeah, that's who it is.
Yeah.
It's funny. Like a little midget got a lot of shit to say about guys that were literally told to do something. And not for nothing. Like, you know me too. Like I like my partner worked for you. Like, come on, cut the shit with talking about that. And like the kids I coached, one of the big things with that was they don't know any better. They just see me walking out this guy and they know he's a hero. They hearing he's a hero and we arrested him. So a lot of times, like, I had to explain that to them. Like, hey, listen, I have a job to do. I may not agree with it, but it's my job. And this is what we had to do. And he'll get his day in court. And thank God he got it. And it worked out for everybody at the end. But to me, that was the word. I really didn't care about these idiots talking, on the job. But the high school guys, when they were looking at that and they were like, whoa, coach, like, what's up with this? I was that hit me a little bit. I was like, you had to break it down for them and explain to them so they can understand.
Hey, on the comments here, I got a lot of support. Michael Freed, I'm not sure if you know, he says spot on, Mike. Totally agrees with what you're saying. Listen, this is a prolific case. I think this is one of the most prolific cases in not only New York City history, I think U.S. history. This is a case that everyone's looking at. I'm all over the country, traveling by RV, and everyone was talking to me about the Daniel Penny case, especially my fellow Marines. Everyone had a soft spot for it. So John and I, we did several episodes. We talked in depth about this case, and we both agreed that Daniel Penny should have never been arrested. But since he was arrested, can we talk about the other two cohorts that actually assisted Daniel Penny in the apprehension and actually taking down Jordan Neely to help the other strap hangers and passengers? Can you tell us about the investigation? What happened with those other two? Who made the decision not to make an arrest on those other two that assisted and acted in concert with Daniel Penny? And what are your thoughts on the other two as far as them not proceeding forward?
I'm not sure how that officially came down. If I got to make a great guess, it came from the DA's office. That whole case pretty much, the outcome of that whole case pretty much came from the DA's office. There was at points where our guys felt like, what are we even investigating this for when, they want us to do whatever they want us to do. But like you guys said, unfortunately, it's our job, right? And there's sometimes where we don't agree with it, but we just got to go through with the motions and get it done. But DA's office had a lot to do with a lot of the end results of that investigation.
Can you tell us about that? What was the communication with the DA's office at this time, and who actually? We've actually had some comments here. It's a good question. Who actually made the decision to arrest Daniel Penny? Was that a decision by the NYPD?
Decision was a DA's office decision. Yeah, that was the DA's office decision. From what I remember of it, NYPD was pretty sure we were closing that out to a non-arrest. But it changed. I remember it changed over like the course of 48 hours. And again, I wasn't the lead investigator on that, but I remember like the guys kind of like, oh, like, is this really happening? And, that's the route they wanted to go. But like the DA's office, 100% with the outcome of that whole investigation.
Yeah. And you guys took the brunt of it. And I was like, this just shows like why cops are hated, and it has nothing to do with the actual cops, right? It has everything to do with the politics in New York City. And the other end of it is the nature of the work, right? Like the nature of the work is we're not firemen. Like we're not, we show up at the worst points. We deal with the worst of humanity, the worst things that happen. And you're tasked with being the bearer of bad news, Yeah. So, it was real unfair what happened. I think the hate and the angst that was going against the Fifth Squad when it was DA Alvin Bragg that made a decision. And it's like, you know what? You voted for him. It's like, what are you blaming me for? He thinks that this is worthy of going to trial. He thinks that this is worthy of seeking an indictment. I mean, I didn't see. I saw self-defense. But I'm not the DA. Nobody voted for me. And now you're going to blame the cops for doing a walkout that the brass ordered for the media attention, and then you're going to blame the cops for conducting a thorough interview. It's like, so you don't want cops to do thorough interviews?
It's funny because when we were in court, right, we walked him down to court. We stayed with Danny the whole time too. We didn't leave him solo. We hung out with him until the very end. And one of the court officers grabbed us and he's like, there's more people here than there was for Epstein. Like, that's how crazed this case was, media driven. He's like, there's more people here than the Epstein trial. They couldn't believe it. Our streets were packed, man. You couldn't move down to Chinatown. That's how many people were out there. So to me, like, again, that the DA squad, the DA should have had him turn himself into the DA squad, nice and easy. It would have done away with that whole circus, and that's it. We didn't have to do it this way. And anybody on the job should know that too.
It wasn't politically convenient to do that. Let me send them over to the 5th squad, and then we'll blame Mike Smith, and we'll blame the detectives over there. And I'm the DA. I'm just doing my job.
Our building is so, like, there's only one way into that building. Like, if you know the 5th squad, like, there's one door.
Yes.
And we used to joke around during
that building's the size of a closet.
It's small, but like, God forbid, like,
built in
the building gets rust.
And it smells like fish.
Yeah.
All day.
Oh, it's great.
But Mike, listen, you have an amazing career. You're a hell of a cop. You're in the squad. I know Mike personally, and Mike was a cop from day one. Just was in his blood. Always wanted to go out there, run and gun and get illegal firearms. Super professional. You're always respectful to people. So I just, I want to segue and talk a little bit about Mike, right? Let's get to know Mike. So Mike gets into powerlifting. That's his passion. Mike, can you walk us through? Tell us, how you're working in the police department and how you got involved in powerlifting and how you found the time to have this passion. And please, if you go into and talk about how that affected you with the police department and how it led to numerous, we're talking about almost 20 random drug tests. Let's talk about that, please. Talk about powerlifting. I love it.
So I was always, I always enjoyed working out, pretty much since high school. But I think like around 2016, I started like seeing these powerlifting things on YouTube and stuff. And I'm like, wow, like it's pretty interesting. Like, and to me, like I always felt like if you're in any type of uniform, you got to be strong. You have to look the part. You got to be built up, in my opinion. Like you have to. If you don't look the part, to me, like that's 90% over for you. You're not going to be respected right out of the gate. So started powerlifting. I got to this gym out in Carteret, New Jersey, man. The gym was a townhouse. It's a legit townhouse. You go into the living room. It's like the bench room. It's called Skiba's Gym in Carteret. Great place. I link up with the old man there. He takes me under his wing. Love the fact I was NYPD. Gave me full reign of his gym. Introduced me to a lot of people that showed me a lot of ways to change workouts, get stronger. And ultimately I went from like a all over the place workout since high school to a very strict, like you're going to push, which is a bench day. You're going to pull, which is going to be deadlift and back day. And you're going to squat, leg day. And you're going to do those 3 heavy days, 3 days a week with 2 light days to work on speed. And it's going to compensate for the strength. And it sounds wild and all over the place at first, but once you get into the mix of it, it all comes together and makes sense. So when I was doing the Skiba's Gym thing out there, working out with this great group of dudes out in New Jersey, the old man gave me the idea. We call him the old man because he's like Yoda out in the guys. He looks like George the Animal Steel, if you know wrestling. And he's great dude, great gym owner, give you the shirt off of his back. So he's like, why don't you do this for the NYPD? He's like, it's a great way to relieve stress. He goes, the guys can come in, work out whenever they want. So I'm like, all right. At that time, my buddy gets the CO position of NYPD Sports. Well-deserved position for him. He was actually in the car with Sergeant Tezzulo the night of that tragedy. God rest his soul. So Manny gets this spot in NYPD Sports, and I reach out to him like, hey, can I do like an NYPD powerlifting team? And he just LOL. I get back in a text message. He said, yeah, go for it. So that was it. About that time, I got maybe 40 guys right off the bat, and a few girls that were interested in doing it. So in the beginning, we had to start out at Floyd Bennett Field and kind of like work in coordination with the CrossFit team. And that lasted maybe 5 minutes. Like the powerlifters kind of took over the CrossFit gym, and there was like some hurt feelings going on, and they just were like, you do your thing and we'll do our thing. So we were no longer allowed back in the Floyd Bennett Field gym after that. So we had to find our own place. The awesome thing about powerlifting is the community is so welcoming, especially the military and law enforcement, that you reach out to a gym and they tell you straight up, come on in. Like, we don't want anything from you. Come in, work out, So that's what we were doing for a lot of times right before COVID. We'd all meet together at these random gyms. Most of them are in Jersey. I don't know why. It was just working out that New Jersey was just a lot more friendlier with law enforcement and military, like kind of opening their doors for us, allowing us to use their facilities. So we were doing that for a little bit. We started out strong, a lot of guys, but then, it's going into COVID. It's going into like the George Floyd stuff. It's going into all that nonsense. So we're kind of shrinking in numbers because guys are getting sent to this place who can't get off this day. Schedules were all over the place. So we kind of kept it tiny after that. And we kept we got an Instagram page up, NYPD Powerlifting. That's the old man right there, man. He's that's Skeever. Good dude. And that's probably the last time we all competed at the same time in 2019, I think that was. But for the most part, we keep the Instagram page active for these guys, and that's pretty much our way of communication. Small group, guys still do their thing, but we all try to do it on our own time because schedules are so tough right now. It's so hard to get everybody together at one shot. We have a workout coming up on February 23rd in another New Jersey gym called the War Room. That's open to all law enforcement. You guys can come down and check it out, come hang out with us. But we still try to get them in on occasion so we could all link up together time to time.
So, Mike, talk about working out on the job. I personally, my own feelings about it is not enough people do it, and the people that do it it's honestly, in my opinion, it's frowned upon in the NYPD to work out, to have muscles, I think every single person that I know that lifts, that has any type of arm that looks like a man's arm should have, has been targeted.
Not noodle arms?
Yeah, has literally been targeted by the job. I feel like there's a lot of jealousy around people who work out when there shouldn't be. It should be something that everybody partakes in. Any type of fitness. I don't care if you're into dance, if you're into yoga, whatever it is.
I agree.
It should be a part of law enforcement culture. But traditionally, what I've noticed in the NYPD, even going back to when I first got on the job, if you work out, there is a stigma. You abuse steroids. Did you ever feel like that you had that stigma? Every
day. And again, I'm not the biggest, I'm not the strongest on the job. But every day, and you're right. Like I used to have guys tell me back in the day, Eric, when we were in the 120. They used to see us in the gym and they'd be like, don't wear cutoff shirts. And at that time, that's my boy Enzo, man. That's another good dude right there. Big law enforcement guy. So back in the day, they used to say, don't wear cutoff shirts because if they see you have any type of muscle tone, you're going to have haters. And that's exactly how they worded it back then. You'll have haters. They'll call up on you and you get dole tested. You just don't want to be, you don't want to be involved with any of that. But it still goes on till today. The crazy part is they have kids so shook now that they don't even want to take creatine as a supplement, and if you're into any type of activity, like you said before, John, no matter what it is, yoga, jiu-jitsu, whatever it is, creatine should be your number one go-to just for recovery, sleep. It reduces your chances of getting any type of brain injury, concussion, all proven It's been around 100 years. It's cheap. It's safe. Like, there should be nobody worried about taking creatine. But the job is just so jaded when it comes to what they can take, what they can't take. I've been on TRT since I'm 28 years old, maybe. Probably started a little young, but my kids were already born, so I wasn't worried about, not, because that's a side effect of TRT. You can't have kids down the road, or if you do, you have to stop for a year and try. But I had my son and daughter. God bless them. Everybody's good to go. I wasn't interested in having any more kids. So at 28, 29, I started TRT. If it wasn't for Chief Mike Marino back in the day, we would not be allowed to have TRT as a medication. When in reality, John, Eric, every man over the age of 30 should have some type of testosterone replacement therapy happening, because we're losing so much the older we get. So why wouldn't we want to stay relevant? Why wouldn't we want to stay younger, feel better, especially being in law enforcement and the type of work conditions we have to work in, dealing with the people we have to deal with? Doesn't it make sense to keep yourself at 100% instead of 50%, right? So I had to go through the whole 9 taking the TRT. You got to call your doctor. You got to get the script. Back, I don't know if you guys remember, in Staten Island, there used to be Dr. Gordon. Like, the whole island used to go to Dr. Gordon, right? So when even that, like, you're thinking about it, like, why am I spending co-pays and this and that to take testosterone? Like, why am I spending all this money? I go to my primary physician shortly after that, tell him, listen, this is what's happening. Like, can I just get it through my primary? Get it through my primary. Life's so much easier. Anytime I got doled, I probably TRT on the paper, put the doctor's number on it, give it to them. Like, never a problem. But if it wasn't for Mike Marino years ago fighting for that in the trial room, like to make the point and actually beat Ray Kelly in the trial room at that time, of like, every man has a different level. Everybody is not the same testosterone levels. After X amount of years, your body is losing so much testosterone. So that's a huge thing too. And I laugh too, because when everybody hear, oh, you're on testosterone, right away, oh, you're juicing. No, man, that's not it. Like, you have to understand the longevity of this process, and how it works. It's a hormone that your body needs. And when you lose it, you're never the same again. You need to kind of keep up with that and keep it going.
Well, tell us about that a little bit, because I actually thought about it. The only thing I take, and I only discovered it a year ago, it was creatine, and honestly, it's done wonders for my energy levels, for my sleep. I was experiencing anxiety from being all the pressure of vesting and all that stuff. All went away. The only thing I take is vitamins and creatine. What are the side effects of TRT versus what could happen? Now I'm 44, so you're saying I should have been on TRT 14 years ago.
I mean, I definitely started a little younger, but they usually say around 30 years old is when you could start. 35, somewhere around there. The side effects are always, you're always going to hear side effects of being, your PSA levels will rise, your blood will get thick. So what you do is, when you're on TRT, is make sure you do your blood work, 1-2 times a year, so you could see what's going on with your body. If you don't take care of that stuff, it becomes dangerous. You just can't pump yourself with testosterone and not take care of your body the other ways. I just had my labs done now. My testosterone was awesome. My PSA levels were like 0.5, awesome. My hemoglobin was a little bit high, which only means is I have to go donate blood. Usually I'll donate blood 2 to 3 times a year. This year I only donated once. So you have to keep up with that stuff to make sure your body kind of balances out. And again, most of these doctors that prescribe you to TRT, that's part of their, like, they won't give it to you unless you agree. Like, all right, you're going to do your labs every 6 months, every 8 months. We got to see what's going on. They'll raise it, they'll lower it. I really never had mine lowered, thank God. It's always been kind of like raised or back to where it was. Another big thing I tell all guys to do before they leave this job, the unions give you a voucher for a full body scan. Use it, because that will give you a whole story, and it takes 20 minutes of what's going on with you. And all they do is put you in a bed, make you drink some shitty drink, and they roll you in and out of a scanning machine, and it shows you calcium levels on everything, prostate, kidney, liver. I got that, all zeros. Huge peace of mind leaving the job, knowing, okay, this was done, everything was good, which shows you that the testosterone is also doing the right thing. It's not messing anything up. So, I mean, TRT is huge, man. You hear, you could get it through your primary position. I know there's a lot of places out there that'll, TRT specialty, but if you're able to do it through your primary, you will save a ton of like co-pays, a ton of money on it.
Mike, I think it's fascinating to hear about, and I have to be honest, I've been on the fence about it. I guess I'm kind of misinformed. I did some research on TRT. I've never done it myself, and what I've heard from some people is once you go on it, you can't come off. Now I have 4 kids, so just like you, I feel like, you know what, I'm good. I don't need any more children. But the same token, John and I spoke, same thing. I started doing creatine myself, competing, doing jiu-jitsu, some MMA. It really helped out a lot. I was boxing, doing MMA, and I've taken plenty of hits to the head. And the creatine definitely helped. I did the research on it. You're absolutely right when it comes to that supposedly kind of gives like a shield of protection, another layer, and builds the fluid in your brain that you need to help. And that's helped immensely. I'm not much of a weightlifter. I spend my time doing jiu-jitsu. I do a lot of calisthenics. I do a lot of flexibility. It helps with the jiu-jitsu. But it's fascinating. I'm always fascinated with people that have a passion and, you're into powerlifting. But let's talk about that, because what John says is absolutely right. This job has this negative perception of someone that wants to maintain a high level of physical fitness, whether it's powerlifting, CrossFit, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. We should want our police officers to have the best physical fitness, because I believe there's a correlation to mindset. There's no doubt about it. But while this is going on, you get randomly drug tested almost 20 times. Can you walk us through that? Because it's supposed to be random, and I don't believe it's random at all. But if you can walk us through that, and was there any anonymous complaints? Did anyone make a complaint or an allegation against you? I'm sure there was.
I would assume, because my if you guys follow me on Instagram, my Instagram's a little wild, right? You see me in crazy workouts, crazy weight, but I do that. My whole Instagram deal is I do that so my kids could see it, the kids that I coach. And I want them to see, like, hey, Coach Smith is 42 years old. He's pushing crazy weight. We got no excuse. I want them to beat me. I want them to be better than me. I want my son the same thing. I want him to beat me, be better than me, be stronger than me. I push all that out there on social media because I want these kids to go, look at it. This old man's crazy, but he still got it. And I want to beat him. And that's the whole point, and it works. So I think a lot of guys see that we work with, and sure as shit, they definitely, call up or whatever. There's no way they don't, I was so surprised. I was ready for it. I was so surprised leaving that I did not get dole tested on the way out the door. I was shocked. I was just bracing. I'm like, because I was taking days off, and I used to tell my sergeant, be like, Mac, if I got to come in for a dole test, just let me know. I can feel it coming. Like it's been about 18 months. One's brewing. But definitely not random. They definitely do it based off hate. We did a police and fire game out in 2019. Me and a few guys went to San Diego. And I'll tell you right now, when we walked through that door of the competition arena, we were the smallest guys there. Not even close. Like, we were the smallest guys there. And I remember grabbing one of them, and I asked him straight up, I'm like, do you guys get drug tested? He's like, yeah, cocaine, marijuana, like heroin. I'm like, they don't test you for any like enhancement? He's like, nah. I'm like, really? And he's like, nah, nobody cares about that. I'm like, okay. So we did okay. It was a good time. We got to meet a lot of good people. But I was back for maybe a day and a half, and I got called down to left rack for a dole test. And, listen, it is what it is. You go there laughing. I got nothing to be afraid of. But it's funny because when you do get called to dole test, the guys see that in the finest, and it becomes more of like, oh, look at it. This guy's getting doled again. Like, look at him. And then they become like afraid to do what I do. And when I say that, I mean like the supplements that I take. So when I tell you I will get a shitload of text messages during the course of a week of guys asking me what they can take and what they can't take. And I'm like, dude, if you bought that in GNC, take it. Like if you bought that over the counter, take it. There's nothing in it that's going to make you a false positive on a test. Nothing. I don't give a shit when anybody tells you it's not going to make you a false positive. Stop with this nonsense of, well, I bought it from, I can't take this because it's not happening.
Oh, yeah, that creatine we just put up, that's the one. It's Thorn. It's NSF certified. You remember the job put that order out?
Yeah.
Everything needs to be NSF certified. So if you guys are scared, look at that one. But creatine, man, woman, working out, not working out. If you actually look at it, it actually says a brain supplement too.
Right.
Because it has a lot of other, besides increasing muscle density, bone density, it actually helps, like I said, alleviate anxiety, better sleep, more energy. And yeah, I mean, I've been doing a lot of research on creatine since taking it, and I absolutely love it. So if you guys are worried about it, Thorn, we're not getting paid. This isn't a paid advertisement. It's just something I take. I have it on a 30-day supply order. I take 5 milligrams every day. I put it in my water, whether I work out or I don't work out. And it's been a world of difference. I felt I was going in the gym. I was completely lethargic. And I was like, oh my God, is this what it's like being 43? And I was like, I was just like going through the motions. I felt horrible to boom. I'm hitting levels I never hit before.
You do feel a difference. And it's definitely the NSF certified stuff too is like, I laugh at it sometimes because I feel like most of the time those companies are paying a few dollars extra to throw that sticker on the can. But C4, right? C4 to me is, you guys ever take C4 pre-workout or drink the can from 7-Eleven?
No, but I see it everywhere.
Yeah,
So I never take it myself.
You will be like off the rocker, just off one can from 7-Eleven. Like it's have so much beta alanine in it that your body is just, you feel your face itching. A lot of guys don't like that. I love it because it's showing me like, all right, let's go. Like something inside that drink is working. But there were people afraid to take that supplement too, and that had the NSF on it. So what the job did was they had that thing that came out that said you could only take supplements with that stamp on it. And I believe maybe right before COVID or shortly after, they changed the wording of that to where they want you to just be aware. Because I mean, if you can't fire a guy for taking an over-the-counter supplement. Like to me, like if he's gonna test positive for something, then it's not the supplement. That's just me. It's not the supplement. I had 18 dole tests. I was on woke I was 100 supplements you can name I've taken, and I was doled. I never had a positive dole test. So something's off there.
Well, this the ability of the police department to scare and cause these scare tactics for cops not to take supplements, I always thought was absolutely ridiculous. Something's over the counter, it's illegal, and I never understood this ideology where we're trying to suppress police officers to maximize their physical ability, especially in law enforcement, right? The more experience you get, the better cop you get, you're actually getting that experience in age. And as you get older, your physical abilities do decline. It's a small percentage. And if we can have enhancements or supplements to actually effectively make you better, your physical fitness, and correlates to your mental health, and actually alleviate getting less injuries, right? You have better recovery time. So now you're going to have more appearances at work, less likely to be getting sick. It's absolutely ridiculous. John and I spoke about this. So if they're having a problem, they have a faulty test, why don't they get a better test? So while you're getting all these random tests, at any point, did the union contact you to show any support and say, hey, listen, Mike, we're sorry, you're constantly getting tested. You're getting, obviously, you're getting googly eyes from cops looking at this finest thinking, wow, maybe this guy is actually taking some type of steroid. At any point were you getting supported, or did they try to combat it or try to help you? Because I think this is completely, it's almost as if you're getting an allegation. So again, because of these finest messages, everyone knows you're getting dole tested. They can make the observation, hey, he's doing powerlifting. So right away, the assumption is that he's taking steroids. So if any, what type of support did you get, if any?
I mean, the union, I never actually even thought to even bother with them doing all this, to be honest. I never had luck with the unions. We got some good union guys that will, like there's a dude, Greg Silverman, guy's aces, man. He'll give you the shirt off his back. He'll answer any questions. He's probably the only one I would say that kind of goes out of his way to go the extra yard for you. Other than that, though, I really never reached out or tried to bother with anybody else. I think because I knew I was safe taking these tests, like I really had nothing to worry about. I really was like, I just treated it like a joke. Yeah, go ahead. The one thing that does bother me, though, is that I feel like all the unions should definitely push to make the job stop with the shit when it comes to having a muscular physique or having stop singling people out because they look the part. And I'll never forget, years ago, there was a retired guy, and he told me he went to the trial room, and it was a steroid scandal years ago, and he asked Ray Kelly to his face, would you rather have somebody that looks the part like myself, or would you rather have the 400-pound guy that can't get out of the car? And he said, without hesitation, I'd rather have the 400-pound guy that can't get out of the car. And that always kind of stuck in my head years later, because to me, why would anybody want that? And listen, I think Kelly's era was the best era we had as far as PCs were concerned. It was consistent. The job had a lot of consistency, which was much needed. We had people in positions that deserved to be there and knew how to operate in those positions. Probably never see that again, but that always stuck with me. That one comment that was said, because I never understood why. Why would you rather have somebody that could possibly have a heart attack chasing somebody, or God forbid their partner's in a position and he can't get there? You'd rather have that guy than the guy or girl that's kind of in shape. I never understood that.
The Volpe incident, and they relate the Volpe incident to steroids, and they relate Volpe to every muscular guy, that incident. They relate that to male aggression, to working out. And they look at guys like you and say, oh, you're a threat. Your muscles are a microaggression. And they honestly, and you see it. You see on the recruitment videos, dude. It's not a joke. You look at every recruitment thing. There's nobody there that's in shape. You know what I mean? They don't take anybody they don't take muscular men. They look at you as aggressive. And honestly, the culture in the NYPD is it's anti-man, it's anti working out. That's the culture, in my opinion. It's the DEI has infected the NYPD, and there is a huge target on men. Traditional muscular man in the role, straight, white. That you are a marginalized community in the NYPD, and nobody talks about it. And the people that push it are traditional male white men. So it always makes me laugh. I'm like, the people that adapt this DEI initiative and this DEI movement, they're targeting themselves, they're targeting their children, and they're pushing it down on everyone. And they 100%, they want the 400 pound. They want the 400-pound guy that can't get up to the locker room.
I was grabbed by a guy. He's still active, so I won't mention his name, but he grabbed me when I started doing the social media thing, and he was already into the social media thing. And he was the dude looked like, he still to this day looks like he could compete in pro bodybuilding. Solid guy.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
And he's like, Mike, listen. He goes, they want you to start posting all this stuff with the NYPD. He goes, it's great. He goes, but I'm gonna tell you now, they called me in a few years ago and gave me 90 days to remove NYPD from all the pictures I had up working out. And if I didn't do it in 90 days, I was getting suspended. He goes, so I will never give them an ounce of me again on the platform of health and fitness ever again. So that was another thing that stuck with me. And because he's like, what if this changes, the shift changes, and they do away with the sports programs and they do away with this? Now, all of a sudden, they're looking at it in a negative, and now they're going to give you 90 days to take it all down. So, it made sense. And that to me, that specific person I'm talking about should have been the poster guy for every NYPD hiring
100%.
photograph we had. 100%. He's the guy right there, man. He's legit.
Yeah.
And he did it.
Looking guy, well-known
dedication.
guy,
Right.
respectable guy, and yeah, no, they demonize him. Go right after him. He's a
Crazy,
target.
right? That's the picture.
Absolutely.
If I was running stuff, I'd say, yo, I need that guy right now till he needs to be our poster guy for everything we're doing. No brainer. I just don't understand it.
Mike, we did an episode yesterday, and we spoke about the 30 for 30 initiative. That's pretty much a globalist idea, where they're targeting 30% of law enforcement to be females by 2030. So John and I spoke about this, and we said that the appearance of two females is actually far more dangerous for an adversary than two large, burly men that have the confidence in the appearance. Did you find in your career, once you got into powerlifting, I mean, and you were always fit, but now obviously your mass, you have a big mass, you're in great shape, and in uniform or in your suit, did you find that created de-escalation in encounters that you had? Did you find that appearance created better situations in your career that actually led to better engagements? What was your thoughts on?
1,000%, man. That because right away nobody's gonna want an issue, right? Like I was saying before, if you look the part, you're gonna get that respect factor. Like, listen, sometimes you're gonna deal with an animal, and the animal's gonna be the animal no matter what. But most of the time, when you're dealing with people and they see like you look the part, you look the position, you're gonna get that respect right off the bat. And listen, I never treated anybody any ways they shouldn't have been treated, so. Always helped. Always. And I used to laugh. My partner used to be like, if things started getting crazy, he's like, I'm going to go get the big man, and I don't want the big man coming in here. Don't upset him. He's like, he didn't eat yet. So it always used to work. You don't see the 30 for 30 thing. We were lucky enough, I think, in the 120 where we saw we had some bad females. And I mean, girls that could handle themselves, right? Sabrina Trunzo. I don't know if you remember Sabrina. Yep. Handled herself, right?
She was in great shape. She was a powerlifter too, right?
In great shape, yeah. I seen her a few years back. She's bigger than all of us.
Right.
I think she was a powerlifter. I remember I was like, when
she might have been back then, but I know she was she always took care of herself. Or you would not want to mess with her if you saw her. Nancy Sirigliano, another one. She took care of business, handled herself. You didn't want to mess with her either. Jess Nieves back in the day from SNU team. She was another girl, handled herself. You don't really see the girls like that anymore. You don't. There's very few of them, and I don't know why, but to me now you're getting kind of smaller. Girls that are afraid, those girls we just mentioned, never had a day of fear in their lives ever. It's crazy.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Mike. Before John, I'm sorry. I just want to say that it's we talk about that. Those women were extremely feminine, and there was no doubt they were women, but they had the masculine traits to do policing. They had the tools to be effective police officers. That's what we talk about. We don't mean that you have to be a man, but they had the masculine traits.
Right.
Nancy, she was as feminine as could be, right? But you knew when Nancy was out there, she was the boss, she was a leader, and she was tough. Jessica was tough. These girls that you're talking about, Sabrina Trunzo, had a great press. She was a powerlifter. I mean, I said, if a man messes with her, he's going to have a rough time. But these are women that had those masculine traits. Sorry, brother John. I know you wanted to say something. I just wanted to throw that in there.
No, you're 100% right, huh? You are 100% right, dude. And all three of them will tell you where to go and what they think. And you see the traits in them more than you see in certain bosses today that'll beat around the bush with you, afraid to tell you what it is. And girls like that weren't. But that's where, when we talk about the training, when we talk about the lowering standards, it removes that organic individual that should be there, right? Those girls came into a masculine profession. They excelled at it. They performed higher than a lot of their male counterparts because the standards were high. They met those standards. When you lower the standards now and you let people all across the board, what do you see? You see men that are less masculine than these females, way less masculine than these females could ever be. And they were outliers. It's just the nature of things, right? Women traditionally don't become cops,
right?
But the women that do become cops are outliers. And when they're going into that masculine environment, they'll do well because they're supposed to be there. you know, and like when we're forcing people, when, you know, you hear the 30 for 30 initiative and we're targeting the groups that don't want to become cops. It's like, why are you targeting those groups? You're failing at getting the groups that want to be cops. Let's start there. Don't worry about going after why Asian women in the 5th precinct that are doing yoga in the park don't want to become cops. Let's not target them. Let's go to the groups that want to be, and why are they not taking the job? And that's why you're seeing that. So, Mike, you know, you're probably fresh, right? You're right out of the frying pan, bro. You just retired. Like, what are you seeing, dude? Like, what are you thinking about New York City? What are you thinking about the NYPD?
I mean, unfortunately, I'm seeing that it's, you know, we always used to hear that term, the job's dead, right? Like, you always heard that. I mean, right now, I think it's officially dead. The one thing is, I said it before, under Ray Kelly, like, you know, say what you want about the guy, but what do we have? 12 years, 13 years of consistency in that highest position, right? How many commissioners are we at now with Adams in office? Like, we're at like number 4 already, and might be up to number 5 pretty soon. So the fact they can't keep a commissioner intact just shows you that they can't keep this job intact. Nobody wants this job. I mentioned it earlier too. Detective Bureau was the most prestigious place to work in the NYPD. Right now, you can't find anybody that wants to come to the Detective Bureau. And again, look at the past chief of detectives. Look at the current chief of detectives. It's not working. It's not working. They need to fix that problem and fix it now, because when you got guys retiring at the rate they're retiring now, there's no way you're filling those spots. And these squads, and dude, I was in the 5th squad. Wasn't the busiest squad at all, and you know, it was okay. But you're gonna have squads that are busier, that are gonna start losing more and more. How are you gonna fill those squads? What's gonna happen, man? How are you gonna get these caseloads done? Because I'll tell you right now, we experienced in the 5th, they don't give a shit how many guys you have working there. When CompStat hits, they could care less. That's all they care about is throwing your guys under the bus, berating your CO out, and telling you could do better no matter how many guys you have working there. It's not going to fix. It's not going to be fixed unless they could fix this manpower issue. And I can't see it ever being fixed. I can't see you guys. How many people tell you, oh, I can't wait to get in the NYPD? Nobody. No, bro. When I came on the job, I had to wait. I was on a waiting list. I had to wait like a year to actually make the academy class. I was originally supposed to be in the year before, but there were so many people, I was held over for the following class. You don't see that anymore. What are they throwing in now? 200, 260 sometimes if you're lucky. It's just crazy. That's the death of the job. Chief of detectives, man, I'll hit that again because I could care less. They need to. We've had no chief of detectives since Essex left, and it's sad. That should be the top spot in the NYPD. That guy should be fighting for every detective on this job, for the manpower issue that we're having. He should be fighting for the schedules that they got going on. Let these guys work the hours that they used to work. Let's not let this bogus statement that detectives shouldn't work earlier than 8 o'clock in the morning. Like, to me, that's insane, right? Like, you're telling me like I can't come in and get this done before 8 a.m. Like, that's just, it's bogus to me. You have to give them back a little something with the congested pricing kicking in. You got guys stuck in traffic. Hours it's going to take them to get to work by you just telling them, no, come in at 8 o'clock. Like, they got to fix that. Stop worrying about the petty stuff. Get the squad back to where it was. Dude, when I talk to these young cops on the job, nobody tells me they want to become a detective. Everybody right away wants to take a quick test and become a sergeant. That's the answer I get at everybody I talk to. No one wants the detective route anymore. And that's unheard of to me.
Mike, there's no doubt about it that morale is at an all-time low. It's so prevalent. You got a recruitment problem. You got a mass exit problem. Yeah, I mean, the external pressures of the NYPD are a problem, but I think it's the internal pressures. Let's talk about morale and camaraderie. And right now with this mass exits, how it affects these detective squads. At any time, were you taken away from your investigations to assist in possibly transit or other locations because of the shortage, or anyone in your squad? Did you have to fill in other detective squads? Did your job change with this mass exodus? Did you get affected by it?
My office, every day, somebody got sent to transit. Every day. We had summer roll out in the winter. I never heard of that before either. So we had guys getting summer roll out in the wintertime. And again, I love the 5th squad, man. They treated us. They treated us with respect, especially the guys with time on. They knew we were leaving. So for us, they gave us the option. And I don't think a lot of people had the option. I was lucky enough to have the option of, you could do it, or if you don't want to, we'll hit the next guy. And I apologize to those next guys, but they were getting hit hard in the 5th squad every day with summer roll out, winter roll out, fall roll out, transit overtime, nonstop. And it was bad because a lot of times these guys didn't have any days off. You know, it was terrible. So yeah, they were getting hit nonstop with this. You know, so what happens too with that is some guys, believe it or not, enjoyed it. They like to make their money. A lot of guys knew they were leaving in a year, so they were trying to cash in on that and get out. So when it stopped and they were only allowing you like 2 tours of transit, that's when you got that second mass exit out the door. That February 28th coming up is going to be another mass hit we're going to take on retirees. So, yeah.
Mike, we were talking a little bit earlier before we even got on. What are your thoughts? Like, what's the difference now from when we got on? Because when we got on, I think it was still a high pressure job. I think it was still a very demanding job, but nobody wanted to not go to work. So what changed in your opinion?
I think it kind of changed when we saw Bratton come in on that revamp of Bratton. I don't think what anybody expected it to be. More politicized, I think it was, than him actually being an NYPD commissioner. And then from that point, I thought we were headed in the right direction under Sewell. I felt like she had the love and the heart for this job, for especially for all of us. Met with her a few times. She was big into the NYPD sports program. You could tell she cared. Like when she wasn't reading off a script. She cared when she spoke. But you saw that was short-lived. I don't think she wanted to play the game, and she went her separate ways. So once she was done, that was it, man. You have to have it from the top. If it's not at the top, nobody's going to give a shit at any other level. And that's what you're seeing right now. You have a city council that doesn't allow police to be the police. So if you actually want the cops to be cops like we used to be when we first came out and enjoy being police, knowing that the city's got your back, knowing that, listen, if we're all acting in good faith here and we're all abiding by the law, you know, we're good. We're going to do our job and excel at it without having to worry about getting thrown under the bus. You know, get rid of the city council. Like, start putting in these laws back in place that protect us instead of the bad guys, so to say, because that's the only way you're going to attract guys and girls to come back to this job. If you can't do that, man, it's never going to go back to like we had it. Like, Eric, we never wanted to take off from work, right? Like, we never wanted to take off. I remember years ago, you could go on like Staten Island Advance's website and listen to the radio, to the police radio, and guys would be off listening to radio going, oh shit, I got to go to work. Like, Eric's having an issue right now with Sector Mike. Like, this is crazy. We cared. Everybody cared about each other. Nobody cares right now. The morale is out the window. Again, I was lucky in the 5th squad. That place was just a different animal. Everybody cared about each other. Family oriented. Thank God I was there. But for the most part, it was every man for himself outside of that.
I never cared. I was rocking around with Valachi, who's now retired, and we would have so much fun. It's funny, we talk about this offline. I think the fun stopped around 2014, 2015. Mm-hmm. But it was so much fun. I remember we're rookies, we're riding a sector bike was busy. We held it down, but I never we would say, like, if we don't bring the car back at the end of the tour, we just stayed out here and just kept answering calls, kept running around stopping perps. Would they actually call us in? You think they would forget about us? Like, we didn't even care if we got paid. It was so much fun. I mean,
back then, who would have called you back in? Nobody would have called you back in, probably, right?
No, they're like, hey, you want to work? Stay out there. We appreciate it.
I mean, different. It was, and a lot of like the new guys don't understand that. Like when I say to them, like there was times where like we didn't want to go home. Like this was the job we signed up for. We couldn't believe we're getting paid to do this. Like we're not leaving. But that took such a shift that like it chased all of us away. Every one of us has a reason why we stepped away. And ultimately it becomes down to the job kind of like turning its back on us. Like I will tell everybody, this job gave me an awesome career. I love the NYPD. I was able to provide for my family. I was able to retire with a great retirement. I just don't like what it is right now. And I don't like the fact that you have these executives in these spots that don't give a shit enough to make a change. Because honestly, dude, if you're the chief of detectives, if you're the chief of patrol, you could make a change by voicing your opinion and saying, listen, this shit's got to stop. Like, we got to get back to the way it was. And I understand if you can't get back to the way it was because of laws and city policy, then you got to get back to bringing morale up and not kind of always turning your back on everybody. And start with the promotions. I thought maybe they'd get a little better on the Tish, but to me, they got way worse. Way worse.
Yep.
Way worse. Like they doubled down on it to me.
First grade sanitation liaison, right
like
off the
and when I would say like my second grade run ended about 2022, maybe 2022. My CO left. She got promoted. My chief left. So then we got the whole new regime in. So I was pretty content knowing like it's not happening, But I would always open the finest, and I get so pissed to see like you're telling me one numbered squad guy got a second grade promotion at a 20. Like, come on, man, we got to do better than that. At least make it fair. Go half and half. Don't be so unfair about it. These numbered squad guys, dude, they work the hardest out of everybody. And I've been in a specialty squad and I've been in a numbered squad. The numbered squad guys work their tail off and they get no respect for it. They got to start promoting. If you want to keep anybody on this job and you want to stop the bleeding, you got to start promoting your numbered squad guys. There's no reason not to. It's unheard of. You're looking at guys in ITB getting second grade. You telling me you can't promote two guys out of the 6-7 squad or two guys out of the 4-4 squad, 3-2 squad? Are you kidding me? Like, come on. It's got to be better than that.
Mike, you're running and gunning out there. When did you get first grade detective? No, I'm just kidding. Because obviously you weren't driving manager. You didn't stop at one police plaza. You were out there running and gunning.
Nah, I didn't get nothing.
Yeah, that's the reality. You should have, but you got a hell of a career. There's no doubt about it. Everyone knows you were a legit cop and you were doing great work. But let's talk about Mike. I love what you're doing right now with when you say your kids, because that's what they become. I mentor kids also. Can you tell us about your life coaching kids, how you got into it, and just tell us where you're at now with that. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, so I got into, my son he's a junior now. So when he was in 8th grade, he was filling out the high schools. He was going to go to St. Joseph by the Sea out in Staten Island. The principal of St. Peter's called me up. My son's a big goalie, big hockey goalie. That's his first sport. Principal calls me up. He's like, hey, I heard your son's a goalie. You interested in coming to the school? So to me, I liked Peter's because it's only like 500 kids, small. Everybody knows each other. So I'm like, all right, I'll come down. I'll feel it out. While I'm there, I meet two friends of mine that are doing the football program for the junior varsity. And these guys are like, dude, come in the gym with us and these 8th graders. Let's get them ready for their freshman year. Gave me JV coaching football job right off the bat. I want you in the weight room with these boys all the time. I said, all right. So my son at the time was kind of like, he never played football. So he was like, maybe I'll come to the workout so I can meet some friends before I'm, fully in the school and do like the second workout in. He's like, I want to play football. I said, all right. So I went to the coach. I'm like, look, no experience. I'm not playing bias. If you want him, you can have him. They took him in. I would say freshman year, he played half the snaps on the defensive line and offensive line, played about 50% of the game. Sophomore year, he goes in, man, he's a team captain. He's starting offensive tackle. He's blowing it away, plus what he's doing on the goalie for the hockey team, first team All-Stars. He's doing awesome. So, like you said, all these kids become your they're like your sons now. Like I adopted like 100 other sons from coaching at this high school. So I start the powerlifting team there. I get these guys running and gunning. They're competing all over New Jersey and New York. They're having a good time. We wind up beating Donovan Catholic out in New Jersey 2 years ago. First time they lost in 20 years. The school went crazy. You know, it's just a good thing. So now he's on the varsity, but we're kind of leaving. And we left it up to my son. We're like, dude, you could graduate Peters, or we can move now to South Carolina and you could finish out there. And he was like, look, find me a place to skate and I'll finish out there. So we've decided we're going to head out that way. So this will be my last year with St. Peter's Boys High School. But when I tell you, man, when you get to work with kids and kind of help change their direction of ways they want to go, it's awesome. You know, it's such a good feeling. You know, these kids respect you. They see what you do. Like I said, my social media, I do it all to clown with them and kind of like, you know, that's my challenge to them. Like the old man's is running and gunning. Let's see you guys do it now. You know, and listen, it's good too being on this job and doing that because you have a lot of insight you could give them on things not to do, like things stay away from. Like if I know these kids are going somewhere on the North Shore, dude, I'm like, nah, you're out of there. Or we'll get a sector car to swing by and scare them and chase them out of there, send them all back home. But yeah, I love it, man. They're great kids. It's nice. It kept the time going. Kept like the self-positivity going too through like COVID and all the nonsense going on with the job. The one thing that I will say that kind of screwed me up was this last coaching year. When the guy, when the chief came in and said, you can't work before 8 o'clock, it kind of took away a few hours from the kids. And I was kind of bent about that because I hate not being around for them because they kind of depend on you. They look forward to that interaction. Some of them don't have full families, dude. So like we're all they have at the end of the day. So it meant a lot to be around them.
It's going to be, listen, big loss to NYPD. I think it's going to be a big loss to Peters. We have a tradition on the show, and we have retired members of the service on. We ask them 2 questions. I'm actually going to ask you 3. The 2 questions we ask them, at the time you came on, you're a young kid again. We bring you back. We bring you back to 2005. Do you come on again? Then we're going to bring you now. You're that age. Again, do you come on now? And then my 3rd question is going to be for you. Not only are you a father, but you're the father to your own children. You're a father to many other kids. Would you recommend them coming on the NYPD?
All right. First question, would I do it again if it was 05? Yeah. If we were back in that time, I'll do it all over again. Would I do it now? No. I wouldn't. Now it's like, I don't think we could, I would never be able to accomplish what I accomplished now. It's way too different. And I tell all my guys, all my kids till this day, do not take this job. I tell them all. I'm flat outright about it. And I a lot of my kids have fathers that are retired as well, and they're getting the same speech. Don't take this job. You want a city job, if that's something you want to do, go do sanitation where you could get away with not even doing your job half the time and drive past somebody's garbage. Go do firehouse where there's still morale left in the FDNY. They still got it. You know, if that's really what you want to do, then go that route. But the NYPD, in my opinion, is not a safe route for a young man to take right now.
Eric, and sorry to cut you off, Eric, but just one more question for you, Mike. 2005, you're coaching these kids. You're 42 years old. I think you're telling them something different.
Oh, I'm telling them to come on. Yeah, 100%. 100%. I would have never imagined that the city would have took this turn it did at this time. I would have never imagined it.
No, it breaks my heart, honestly, at this point, right? Because John and I speak about this all the time. We talk about recruitment. What's the best recruitment tool is word of mouth, right? Think about it. You have these masculine kids, these kids that are already in physical fitness. They understand structure. They respect authority. These are perfect kids to mold into law enforcement. These are the kids we should be targeting, right? This is how often does the recruitment centers come to St. Peter's?
Never.
For the NYPD? Never, right?
To be honest with you, you know who used to swing by all the time when she was the CO of the 120? I will give her respect for that. Tanya would come by all the time and had a nice relationship with Peters at that time. Since then, nobody.
Right, but we shift gears totally right now with this DEI movement. We're targeting meek, timid, and docile. I rival anybody that tells me different, and I say, just look around. And the bottom line is this. We've heard it from somebody like you who should still be on the job. John should still be on the job. I think I should still be on the job. We could mentor and teach the young. We don't see it as a viable career anymore. But, Mike, listen, I love you, brother. Thank you so much for being here. You provide a great insight to the police department. You got everything that you earned. It's all merit-based when it comes to your career. There's no doubt about it. You were out there running a gun. You were getting illegal firearms. You were making mass arrests. You made a lot of arrests in your career. You were an outstanding investigator. You coach and mentor kids. You're a powerlifter. I don't know how you find the time for all this stuff. So let's have a little fun here. Tell us about Mike in retirement. What are your plans besides powerlifting, besides mentoring kids? What else do you want to do in your life? Are you looking to work? Do you want to own a business? Are you looking to learn golf? What do you see yourself doing? What are your passions?
So I'm not gonna change too much off my schedule. Like I used to wake up 4 a.m, work out, go right to work. So now I wake up 5, 6 a.m, work out, and start my day just to kind of keep it starting early. And I feel like if you stay on that track, it kind of won't make you go crazy, if you keep to the same schedule. But I actually put an offer in on my house today. I'm hoping that goes through. If it does, I should be out in South Carolina by June, the latest, July. I may be going a little earlier, April-ish, to link up with a private security company there. Nice, easy gig. You're sitting armed in the school, active shooter response. That's it. So they love retired guys. They love retired guys from our neck of the woods also. They kind of rolled out the red carpet when I went down there and met with me. So to me, it was a no-brainer. School schedule, right? Less stress. It's not the end of the world. Nice gig. So I should have that done by April, and that's it, man. I'm gonna just keep it to the same routine. I'm gonna keep lifting, keep lifting, keeping up with the TRT, the creatine. I'm gonna keep it all going.
I just want to say this before John speaks and we give you your last words. We always want to hear from this is your day. We want to memorialize your career. This is your day. But I have to say this, and I have to let my active retired members and our friends and listeners throughout this country, I want to thank you, Mike, because since day one, when John and I started this podcast together, Mike has always shown nothing but support. He was one of the guys that was not afraid to speak to me. I mean, I've had numerous people that were active within the police department when I started the podcast, were scared to even talk to me, scared to lose their job. And Mike, you never shied away. You showed nothing but guts. So I have to thank you for that, and I appreciate it.
Nah, no problem, bro.
So, Mike, before we end up, I got one more question for you, bro. All the shit that's coming out in the papers, all the corruption, all the nonsense at the top in the mayor's office and the department, how do you think it affected the rank and file? Like, how was it in the fifth? Did you guys really care? Was it just jokes? Or do you think it had an effect on you guys, like lower down? Like how, like all the stuff you're reading, what you're seeing, like what was the feel in the office at that time in the precinct? Like, what was that like?
Oh, well, listen, we, all the other detectives do, you're going to joke about it, but it pisses you off because when somebody's breaking your chops about 2 hours of overtime and you have somebody raking in God knows how many hours with no case or reasoning attached to it, like you kind of get disgruntled. You know what I mean? When you're working in a squad with no manpower and they're nickel and diming you, telling you can't take overtime, and you see shit like that happening with the overtime, it pisses people off. It does, and rightfully so. You got guys that are hard earners. They deserve the overtime. And on my way out the door, dude, this is quick. I was putting in for the pre-tour anyway. I was putting in for if I came in at 6, I put in 0600 to 0800 2 hours. And then I do 2 hours on the end, 4 hours. And I wasn't coming in many days. So maybe I did 12 hours of overtime with the pre-tour attached to it. It's funny. I checked my last paycheck. They only paid me for 2 hours after. I never got paid for the pre. So I called my partner and I'm like, dude, I'm like, I'm laughing this off now. I'm done, right? I signed the DS. I'm out of there. But like, I would be pissed off right now if I was still active and I got shorted for like 2 hours on every slip I drop. Like, you're telling me you couldn't go to bat for me for this guy's retiring. Like, he has work attached to it. Like, let it be. He's leaving. Like, you couldn't, you literally cut my hours and didn't tell me off the OT slip. So I laugh about it now, but I could tell you what, if I was still in that office right now, I'd be throwing stuff around because I'd be pretty pissed.
Mike, listen, awesome interview. You did a hell of a job memorializing your career. Can you tell people where to find you on social media if they want to connect with you? Maybe they want to check out your powerlifting, check out your football team, and just see your afterlife on the job and see your retirement.
Yeah, you could reach out to me on @thesmith72. That's on Instagram and X, and at NYPD Powerlifting on Instagram. You guys, like I said, we got a workout coming up the 23rd. We haven't had one in a while, so we should have a good turnout for it. Anybody's welcome to come through.
Awesome. And Mike, before we wrap up, you want any last words? Whatever you want to talk about. You want a message to the troops, message to anybody? What do you got?
Yeah, listen, 5th Squad knows I love them, man. And I always say, like, I couldn't wait to get out, but I'm going to miss that squad. Like, everybody in that squad. There's not one bad apple in that squad. Those guys are special to me. They always will be.
Thank you for coming on, brother. Listen, you spent 2 hours with us. You're always welcome back. You see anything, you want to come on, talk about it, hit us up. You know, we'll bring you on. We could do, even if you just want to come on for a segment or whatever. We'll appreciate having you. Eric, you want to end us out, brother?
Yeah, Detective Mike Smith, retired. Enjoy your retirement, brother. Thank you so much. Yeah, doing a hell of a job, man. It's impressive. I'm impressed by anybody that has a passion for something and sticks with it while also working all those hours with the NYPD. I appreciate you. Always had my back, you know, working as rookies together. I knew, you know, if we had some shit on Jersey Street, I knew Mike Smith was there. So
we're right around the corner.
And you've been there while I'm podcasting, right? So thank you so much for the support. Outstanding. John, as always, thank you, brother. Jack, thank you behind the scenes. Mike, God bless you. Thank you, brother.
All right, guys, be safe, man.
There's a handful of retired officers that don't live in the state that have a lot to say about the dream team, as I like to call it. All of a sudden, they retire and have a master plan on how to fight crime, but nothing to contribute when they were here. They want to come back and be part of the dream team. What can I say?
Law enforcement professionals dedicate their lives to serving and protecting our community. But who's protecting their financial futures? That's where Laidlaw Blue comes in. Our wealth management platform is specifically designed for the law enforcement community. Laidlaw Blue is a division within Laidlaw Wealth Management, run by retired New York City detective John McDermott. His status as a retired detective uniquely positions him to establish a deep connection between Laidlaw Blue and the law enforcement community. Our platform is easy to use and provides a range of financial services, including investment management, retirement planning, and insurance solutions. With Laidlaw Blue, you can secure your financial future and provide for your loved ones. Our team of experienced financial advisors understands the unique challenges and opportunities that law enforcement professionals face. We're here to help you navigate the complexities of financial planning and achieve your goals. Laidlaw Blue. Secure your financial future today. Book a meeting using the QR code displayed or call us directly on 888 901 Blue. That's 888 901 Blue.